This is the OH Report. My name's Skowronski. This is Hershberger, and you guys are watching Calling the Shots. Our special guest today, one of the hardest hitting people in all of Mansfield, Ohio, maybe even the entire Buckeye State. It is featherweight pro Chaise Nelson joining us now from his father's home. Well, I know that you're getting in some work right now. You're taking the coronavirus pandemic in stride, and you're still getting your work, man. Tell us about it.
Yes, sir. So I kind of just been cooped up in the house for the past 2 weeks. My dad made his garage into a gym. So that's where I go every day. I spend most of my time down there. I'm still training, still trying to, stay in shape until this is done with and continue my routine.
Your dad has been an amazing support person, mentor in your life. I've known your dad since you were a wee little kid when you were in my Taekwondo class. And I knew right then how much support he was throwing behind you because he really took your training seriously. So do you mind just speaking on that, the relationship you have with your dad and how much support he's given you over the years?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My dad was really, really hard on me at a young age, as you know. He just wanted me to be great. And for a while, at a young age and as a kid, you kind of resent them for that because all I knew was training and winning. And now growing up, I understand. He just wanted me to be great, and he wanted me to go farther in life than he did. So for that, I will always love him, and I will always thank him for that. And he's like my best friend. So
I love hearing that.
The combination with the kids.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. And for anybody who may not know, I've been following your career since you were a young tech, just like how Chris said he had an opportunity to train with you when you were a younger person. And you've been successful since you were like a 9 or 10-year-old. So just fill the people in on the type of amateur boxing career that you had coming out of Mansfield, Ohio.
Coming out of Mansfield, Ohio, I ended up being a 9-time national champion. I took a silver in the National Junior Olympics. And then on 2013, I actually made Team USA and was 10th in the world and number 1 in the United States, which I held that for a year and a half. So, and once again, that goes all back to my dad and how we would do things. He was getting me up at 5, 6 a.m. before school and training me harder than after school. It was all training. So, that's my dad's my work. We did it together, and he really pushed me to be great.
Last time Chaise was at the Olympic Training Center, we were also there, and I found out he was there by Facebook. Nice. And I was like, what is going on? And I couldn't connect because, our trainings were different times and everything. But what did you think about that experience being at the OTC?
Funny story, actually. The boxing gym was upstairs, and we could look down on the gym downstairs, and it was always a gymnastics gym. But Taekwondo was there one day. I looked down, and I thought I seen someone that looked like Chris. And as I walk up, I'm like, oh no, that's definitely Chris. So it was just really funny because I did not expect to see somebody from Mansfield there too. So it's really awesome that I ran into him, and it was definitely a great experience. Coach Pedro from Cuba got Coach of the World that year. So he's a very great coach and knew exactly what he was doing. Great training. I made a lot of friendships, and most of those kids went on to be world champions, as you know, Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson.
Right.
Really big athletes. They're very rich and wealthy athletes. So, it was a great team.
So obviously boxing and all the hard work that you put in with your father as a young person, it paid off, and you got to do some really cool things, different experiences that a lot of normal folk like myself would never, ever get to be involved with. When you reflect back, though, on being a kid and the fact that you were waking up at 5, 6 a.m., probably weren't getting to do a lot of the activities that other people your age were having the time to do, what do you think about the way that you came up and how it's turned out to this point? Do you regret any of it not having a normal childhood, if you will?
I don't, because it made me into the man I am today. And, I strive for goals. I don't take no for an answer. I just keep working, and I know eventually it'll pay off. All that time that I didn't get to do normal things when I was in the gym working and just wanting to be great, I know eventually one day it's going to pay off. And at the time, like I said, I kind of resented my dad for that, but now I understand, and I love him for that. So.
Yeah, some of the downtime from training, and it's one of the things I enjoy asking athletes. When you're not training, and we know you're training like 99% of the time,
Yeah.
What's that 1% thing you really enjoy doing that kind of allows you to numb your brain a little bit and relax and not be so focused on your training?
I just like relaxing with my family or just hanging out with my friends, just doing normal stuff. Nothing crazy. Like I said, I just kind of like relaxing, so I do get that rest. And yeah, so nothing. I mean, I might go outside and play catch or just just hang out with the boys or might go out here and there, but it's nothing crazy. I just kind of like to relax and just chill.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually ask a tail-end question on that because one of the things, as a former athlete myself and now coaching a number of athletes, that I experience and I see them experiencing is a little bit of pushback from friends because they're like, man, come on, man, you're still training. Why don't you do this? And some of them don't understand, the level you're at and what you're trying to do. So how did you deal with that pushback from your friends?
I love my friends, but at the end of the day, my friends aren't trying to be a professional athlete. So I had to do different things and take different routes than they did. So when I'm in camp, I don't do anything that involves me not getting the proper rest or stuff like that. When I'm not in camp, it's fair game. I'll hang out and we can all hang out and have fun. But when it comes down to training camp and stuff like that, I have to distance myself from everybody and focus on the task at hand. And some people don't understand that, but my real friends, they get it, and they just know it's that time.
He said girlfriends plural. Did you?
I said my friends. I said my friends. I said my friends.
Okay, my misunderstanding.
When your nickname in the ring is Pretty Boy, it's okay to have a couple of ladies on the side, Chase. Don't ever be
don't apologize.
No big deal. So right now, though, obviously with that stay-at-home order and everybody here in Ohio, if you're not doing your essential work, you're supposed to be kicking it at home. What are some ways that you're doing to be creative to make the time go by so you get something out of it?
I work out. I watch Netflix nonstop, Hulu, Disney Plus. I actually read a book. First time in a while, so I'm just trying to find things that really keep my mind going, and because it is boring, after a while you're just kind of like, man, this this kind of sucks. But yeah, I'm just trying to find small things that keep me going, and like I'll help my dad around the house if he needs help with something, or just be outside as much as I can, which it's rained a lot, but any day that's warm out, I'll go for a run, or I'll just be outside doing small things.
You got to be wondering the same thing I'm wondering, Brian. What's the last thing on Netflix this guy watched?
Fill us in.
The Tiger King.
I knew he was going to say it. I knew it.
Yeah.
Chris,
I've watched it. I've already watched it, and I feel like I lost about 40 IQ points, but I did watch it.
And in my 22 years, it was probably the craziest thing I've ever watched in my life. Wow.
So many twists and turns. How can you be a big cat person? You've always heard about the crazy cat lady, so I
always
should have maybe expected this on a bigger scale with the big cat.
Right. Yeah. And Carol Baskins, she did it.
Yeah.
She did it.
Oh, for sure.
All right, so let's talk about your professional career now. You're just 22 years old. You're off to a great start, 10-1 record right now. There's levels to everything. So you felt what it was like coming up the ranks as a young person trying to get on Team USA. Where are you at in your journey and your accomplishments as a professional right now? Are you still like first step, second step? Where do you feel?
As of right now, I'm at that stage where it's really important because if you think about it, most people in the next 5 or 6 fights is when they get a big call. For example, I was in training camp with Tyler McCreary. Tyler was only 15-0. He got the call to fight a 2-time world champion by the name of Carl Frampton, who was a very big name in boxing. So, I'm at that mark now where it's really important. These next 5, 6 fights are going to be where you see me fighting a lot of tougher guys, a lot of veterans, a lot of ex-world champions to see exactly where I'm at, because once I do hit that 15-win, 16-win mark, I will for sure probably be getting a call. So it's really important right now to grow as much as I can, but also be in those tough fights and learn as well. So
that's a good point, Chase. I know that as a fighter myself, every fighter has this in the back of their mind because you just have been fighting for so long. But who and when was the toughest match of your career? Like you go back to and you remember it like it was yesterday. You remember the sweat. You remember the fatigue. You remember all those details that remind you why it was such a tough occasion.
The toughest fight I've had is actually because of me and what we were doing. Was my last fight for that title. I didn't have a great. It was the worst training camp I've ever had. My dad was actually injured, so he couldn't be in camp with me. My other coach from Mansfield, Billy, was having a kid, so he was busy doing his thing with that. So I literally trained myself and only had like 2 weeks of sparring leading up to that fight. So because of the things that I was doing, that we were doing as a team, that we weren't working together, it was my worst training camp, and that's when the fatigue set in around round 4 and 5, and I really had to dig deep and pull that win out. But like I said, I put the blame on myself because I didn't train the right way, and I only got, like I said, like my camp technically was only 2 weeks of sparring and working minutes with Joe Delgado, who's now my head coach. So yeah, it was definitely a tough fight because I wasn't in the proper shape, and I just didn't do the right things.
I know obviously the whole sports world's been turned upside down since we can't go to the gym right now and you can't technically get the training that you were accustomed to getting for your whole life. But making the switch from your father as your head coach and your game planner and obviously working the mitts with Billy Salser here locally, how different has it been making the adjustment from what you've known your entire life for training to now having a couple of new people in your life that are tailoring what your game should look like?
Well, that's the good thing. Billy and my dad were always my coaches as I was coming up and in boxing. And my dad's my best friend. So Joe Delgado, my dad, and Billy, they're all good friends. So everything that I was doing with them, I'm also doing with Joe. And he's just tweaking things that he thinks that I could excel in or that I should do differently. And I like Joe so much because Joe reminds me of my dad. He's very in my face. He's very hands-on. If I'm doing something wrong, he makes it very clear, which I'm just used to, and that's just the kind of coaching that I like. I like that hard coaching. So, yeah, I love Joe. I think he's doing a great job, and it's a great fit for me.
So as an athlete too, I know you're always accustomed to, taking stock into where you need to improve as far as weaknesses and strengths. Right now, today, what are you prioritizing as I need to build this element of my game?
Me and Joe Delgado are really working on sitting down and with full rotation on every shot that I'm throwing right now. Not to make me like a knockout artist, but to make me really sit down on my shots, and when it's time to hurt people, get them out of there right now. So before all this happened, we were really working on just sitting down and throwing the same punches or the same combos over and over again for an hour and a half. Just really sitting on like my balance and like my rotation and like how I'm throwing and making sure my elbows are in, and just he's really focused on my punching power right now, which is good. I think that's what I needed. Everybody knows I'm a fast fighter, but I think it's really coming down to people want to see knockouts. So.
How challenging is it then? You said that you're the type of guy that you want someone in your face when you're in the gym that lets you know, Chaise, this doesn't look good, do it like this, or Chaise, that that was great type deal. So the fact that you're having to work pretty much by yourself right now, like what are the challenges?
Well,
is it a lot different?
Actually, I'm at my dad's house, so when my dad gets home from work, we actually work mitts and stuff. And it was funny because I haven't worked with mitts with him in like a year, and as soon as we started working mitts, he popped off like 5 things that I was doing wrong and like made it very clear. And I was just like, man, like, wow. Like I was, I just forgot how it was. So yeah, we're like working with him for these past 2 weeks have been really refreshing. And he makes sure I'm on top of my game, nothing's getting past Mike. So.
Boxing is a sport, as you know, where you're selling yourself as an athlete in many different ways outside of the ring. What do you think you bring to that marketing table that would differentiate you from other boxers?
I definitely want to help out my community any way that I can. So especially like, when I do get big and make it, I want to give back to Mansfield somehow. I'm always trying to help people out, man. I personally train a lot of people too. So yeah, I'm just, I just like to give back, and I'm just super friendly. I'm easy to walk up to and, say hi to, or just ask how I am, or, what I'm doing. So
Do you think much about your persona and having to sell yourself just like on a day-to-day when you're out in public, when we were allowed to be in public per se? Given what Chris just said, did you try to present yourself in a certain style?
Yeah, I mean, of course, as a professional athlete, and I'm from Mansfield, I kind of got to watch what I do, I can't be acting like a complete idiot just out in public. So, yeah, I definitely try to carry myself with respect and respect other people as well. But I mean, I am just me, I just act myself. So.
One thing that I was recently really impressed by you, and I've known you since you were a little kid and I've always been impressed by you, is that, you came in, you showed up at my gym and said, hey, I want to get in there and start kicking. And what that tells me is that, you're an athlete that's always looking for out of the box ways to improve your game. And so very impressed by that. Are there other ways you're doing that outside of what I just explained?
So actually I eventually want to do an MMA fight.
Okay.
So that's exactly why,
Heard it here.
that's exactly why, when I think of kicking, I think of Mansfield, Ohio, what better place to go than, Chris's. So, like I said, I've worked with Chris since I was a young kid, and I think Chris is the real deal. So, if I'm going to go somewhere and learn, I want to learn from the best. So that's
I appreciate
why
you saying that.
up. No,
Yeah.
no problem. So yeah, I eventually want to tie it all together, but when this is all done, of course, I would like to come back and just get go, with my kicks again. So.
Can you imagine his hands in the octagon?
I'm excited for it. Absolutely. How close do you think you would be to being prepared for your first amateur fight in MMA? I think they have to, in the state of Ohio, I think you have to do 10 now before you turn pro. Are you pretty confident you step in to be productive?
From what I'm hearing, I can't turn amateur. I would have to go straight professionally because I'm a pro.
Because you already taking paychecks.
Yes.
Never start with the big dogs right away.
Right.
So, things are getting worked out behind the scenes right now. I can't really talk about, but you guys will be seeing me real soon. And this is something that I didn't just come up with. I've had it planned out for months. So, yeah, I just want to tie it all together, and when I feel like I'm ready, it'll happen. But yeah, it's definitely something that's going to happen here real soon.
That's exciting news.
Yeah, you guys got to start virtually working on your kicks together.
We got to start going now, man. Mm-hmm. Time is money.
Exactly. That's exactly why I showed up. I actually have a buddy who I grew up with that went to that goes to Chris's, and he was telling me about a Taekwondo class, and I was like, man, you should talk to Chris Hershberger, and he's like, that's where I go, and I'm like, oh man, I got to come. So yeah,
that's awesome. I love to hear how that all worked out. And I want to go back to you being a little kid. And I mentioned this before we started the interview, that I just remember you being this young kid who was well above his years as far as intensity and just spunk. I remember, when I would see little kids come into our class, you basically had two groups. The first group was the really shy group of kids who you'd have to really cajole to do things, right? And then you had the Chaises, who was like, hey, do this. Bam!
Got it. Right
out of the gate. So with that being said, how much of that personality as a young kid have you brought into your adult life? Do you feel like you've changed? Or are you the same guy?
I'm definitely the same guy, man. I joke around a lot. I try to make people laugh. I'm very outgoing. And that's just me. I've been that way since I was like you said, a small kid, and that's just kind of who I am. So yeah, I'm a big jokester, man.
Let's talk about your career again. The 10-1 record right now. I always hear from athletes that they'll think about the negatives, man, or the shortcomings. Is the Brandon Benitez fight the one that you think about the most so far in your 11 pro fights?
Oh yeah. That's definitely a fight that I want to get back as soon as I can. I brought that fight up actually 3 or 4 times to the people that I'm with, and they're the ones that are kind of shying away from it. Me, I actually want that fight. He had a good showing on Showtime last summer for the WBO Latino title. He came, he fell short against a very good fighter who was undefeated, but he put a very tough performance and actually he broke that guy's nose. So yeah, he's a very tough fighter, but that's something that I would love to get back. I don't know if you know this or not. I was actually supposed to fight in April and May, so I was supposed to fight these back-to-back months. And then of course all this happened, but my my goal was to fight these back-to-back months and then ask for that fight. So yeah, that's definitely a fight that I will be getting back.
Yeah. So have you talked to other professional boxers about how the coronavirus has impacted their career and boxing in general, the industry? Because every sport is dealing with it differently. How is boxing dealing with it?
I'll tell you what, I never realized how serious this all was until Top Rank canceled all their cards. I'm talking first it was supposed to be just the fighters were going to go to the fight and no spectators were allowed in the building. Then it was they completely canceled everything. So they canceled all of USA boxing as well for the kids. They canceled the whole year as of right now. So as of right now, there's no boxing, which, I mean, is very serious. You have a lot of very paid high athletes, and there's supposed to be a lot of good fights that were supposed to come up as well. So the boxing world right now, I don't really know what's going on with it. I just know that, you know, everyone's trying to be safe, which is just the best thing to do right now. But as far as when it's going to come back, I have no idea. And I have talked to different fighters, and they're saying the same thing. You know, they don't really know when it's going to come back or when it's going to be allowed to happen again. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's unsettling times for every sport. I don't
Really
think
is.
anybody really knows when we're allowed to return back to action, man. It's weird.
It's an unsettling feeling. The uncertainty is crippling.
Especially because you have a lot of people right now that are working really, you know, that were working hard towards a fight or a game or something like that. And, you know, now it's just kind of like, man, you know, it's not going to happen. So it's unfortunate.
I know that you box like in the 125-pound range, like somewhere in there, I think, even under that. Where are you at right now? If I had to throw you in the ring tomorrow, like what would you weigh in at and what would you have to fight at?
Uh-oh.
So I've been probably fighting at 125 since I was like 15, man. Like I haven't gained no weight. But if you put me in there tomorrow, I think I could probably make 135.
Yeah. So not too bad. I was expecting way worse, man.
Yeah, I was thinking 140 at least. So you're doing pretty good. You eat clean?
Well, I said make 135. I didn't say I was
different.
You talking about like you were going to visit a sauna versus what you meant?
Oh, yeah. Yes, exactly. I was going to go get a suit and jump rope until I couldn't breathe anymore. But yeah, I'm probably walking probably 145, I would say, 140, 145. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective for athletes because many athletes don't have to deal with the weight issue, and you're in a combat sport that's heavily predicated on that. So how do you deal with that? You know, do you normally eat clean regularly, or do you binge a little bit and then hit the weight cut hard? What's your strategy?
So the biggest thing for me is like my water intake. So when training camp starts, I drink nonstop water. The only thing I'll drink other than that is like natural juices, like orange juice, apple juice, maybe teas, like you guys were talking about. There you go.
Yeah, that's right. Tea.
And just from cutting away from pop and stuff like that, you wouldn't believe how much weight you actually lose. I'm not a big pop drinker in the first place, but so what I do is I drink all that water. And then I just sweat it all out nonstop because, like you said, you know, I'm working out twice a day. I'm working out really hard, and I'm even working out sometimes with like a sauna suit on. So whatever I eat clean camp just falls right off me. So like losing that weight, it's not hard until it's like the last 2 pounds, and then that's what really gets because you feel drained, and so like the last 2 pounds are really the hardest weight for me to cut. You know, once I hit that 130 mark, that's when I'm just like, oh, I'm feeling it. So yeah, I just try to eat really clean, drink lots of water as much as I can.
Yeah, that's obviously, I would assume, got to be the worst part of your industry, and the one thing that I've talked to you about that you really don't like doing is the weight cut. I don't think anybody really likes doing it. It's uncomfortable. It's something that I've never done. I don't ever plan on doing. But my question for you would be, Chase, what's your top like go-to snack food that when you finally do have to buckle down, hey, I got to fight in so many weeks, I got to start cutting away. What's the hardest thing for you to give up?
Like, I'm like a big sweets person. So like, I love like any kind of cake, like apple pie, and my mom, I can't even go to my mom's house most of the time because there's always like a fresh, like made homemade apple pie sitting there, just something like that. And she like makes jokes about it, like, hey, you should come eat some. I'm just like, Mom, like, I'm not coming to your house anymore. So yeah, definitely I'm a sweets guy. So anything that's sweet, I love it, man.
Yeah, I think that well, first off, I'm on your side there. I'm a sweets kind of guy. I love chocolate and cakes and all that. That's the hardest. As far as your career is concerned, planning is a big part of any athletic endeavor, but especially for the individual sports, because it's all you. You step in that ring, it's you, right? And you've got your team and everything. But from a planning perspective, where do you see Chaise Nelson in 5 years? Like, what are we going to see in the headlines come 5 years from now?
In 5 years, if I'm not a world champion or I'm not one fight away from a world title, this whole time we've done everything wrong. In 5 years, I should be there or very close. I think I should be there in probably 3 years, 2 to 3 years. Like I said, I'm in that range now where, you know, I have 11 pro fights. These next 5 to 6 pro fights are going to be very important for my career and my future. And you're going to see me fighting very tough, rugged people to learn for when that time comes, which it will come. You might even see me possibly drop down to 122 to get a world title shot sooner. Someone I would love to fight is Brandon Figueroa. I think I would destroy him. But yeah, it's somebody that's definitely on my radar. But yeah, like Chris was saying, in 5 years, if I'm not past it or there, then, you know, we're probably doing something wrong.
So when you get a return back to competition, do you anticipate just being more active? I know that you had 3 fights last year. You've won 6 in a row. A couple of years ago, you had a couple of unfortunate circumstances that prevented you from getting into the ring. Just more activity, would you say, 4 or 5 fights a year?
Yeah. Like I said, I was supposed to fight in April and May. So as soon as this all is over, which I don't know when exactly that's going to be, our plan is to be as active as we can. Like I said, we really want to knock these 5 fights down as quick as possible to get that opportunity when it presents itself. So, yeah, probably at least 3 to 4 fights back-to-back if we can. And then, of course, you know, kind of slowly get into that, you know, that 5th and 6th fight. So, yeah, I'm hoping for at least 4 or 5 fights.
Well, Chaise, I'm super excited about following your career once we get to resume sports, right?
No
and I appreciate you coming on to calling the shots because, you know, I've been a huge fan of yours since you were a little guy. I've loved watching your trajectory, and I'm excited for your future.
Likewise.
Yeah, man. And, you know, I've always been in your corner, been covering you since you were like 14, 15 years old. And I cannot tell you how excited I am that you just let the whole world know that you're going to hit the MMA cage.
Yeah.
That's
elbows.
Of course. It's definitely something I've always wanted to do. And a lot of people don't know this, but my dad never trained me to be a boxer. My dad trained me to be an all-around great mixed martial artist. That's why he had me with Chris Hershberger. That's why he had me around Julian Lane. That's why he had me around Mickey Skidova. That's why he had me around Prince Charles. So it was always – the goal was always to combine it. It was never just boxing, which a lot of people don't know. So
yeah, you're a very well-rounded martial arts athlete, no question. And a lot of the times boxing doesn't get categorized unfairly in the martial arts, but it is very much a martial art. And it is one of the best, in my opinion, of the martial arts because if you can throw hands, you're pretty good, in my opinion. And you've got the hands, Chaise.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks so much for joining us from your pop's house, man. Continue to get in that work with Mike. I know that you're going to stay sharp, and when we're allowed to return back to sports, I would love to be ringside and see your next event or cage side. I mean, whichever it's going to be.
I guess we'll see, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care, buddy.
You too.
All right, so Chaise Nelson joining us. Chris, it's that time of the show.
It is.
Down the rest of our white tees. He's got me hooked 2 days in a row here.
That's right, T. He's going to be a bona fide tea junkie in a week, for sure. For sure.
Good side.
That's right.
Take care, Chaise.